everybody, I'm throwing this video together pretty fast this week because I want to talk about DAGGERHEART. I'm sure you all know, everybody's been yelling about it. It's pretty cool. Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins working for Darrington Press now. Yes, yes, yes! Oh, suck it, Watsy. Ooh. The D&D sphere has finally cracked. It was bearing down weight after the whole SRD stuff. Now that the core audience looks to be branching out, oh my God, we're in for like TTRPG revolution here. I'm super excited. Once again, as you can remember, XP to Level 3 is first and foremost a comedy channel, so everything I'm about to say is not prolific whatsoever. This is the defense I hide behind for any possible criticism. I haven't played it, so this is all like on paper, like I have viewed this and I would like to speak about it. But man, dude, I am so hungry. Do you ever get the middle of the video hunger? I bet you're probably eating while you're watching this right now. That's how I hope most of you consume my content. And there's no better way to stay on top of your meal plans and have dietitian approved delicious meals than with Factor. I got some in the fridge right now. I got the herb crusted chicken. Eat stress-free with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Factor also has loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, and juices. I love these cold-pressed juices that they sent me. I'm gonna be drinking this while talking about DAGGERHEART. Yeah! Wheatgrass, delicious. It's actually really good. Head to factor75.com and use my code 50fireball to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Link down below. Okay, DAGGERHEART. So I should first start off and say that I am not sponsored in any way by this. I was not paid money to make this video, but I did receive it for free from Darrington Press. They sent it to me, and that is very sweet of them, so thank you so much. On the sole reliance that I would make a video about it. So that's what I'm doing, and I was gonna do it anyways, and also we're gonna do a dungeon delve with it at some point. It also came with like this little notepad that has like, it's like a grid paper. Squares! No! How could Matthew Mercer do this to me? Also the book. It's beautiful. The art is incredible. It's by Dominic Meyer. He does some Magic the Gathering cards too, and I'm like, that's pretty good. It also came with a candle by Cantrip Candles, and it smells like inspiration and adventure, and a leather boot. Also, as should now be standard with all TTRPG books, there's bookmarks. That's a smart idea. And I think that's a general rule of thumb. A thing I was constantly saying while I was reading this book is, oh, well, that's really smart. What is Jacob's one sentence roundup of what he feels about DAGGERHEART? I think it's genius. It's super smart. What did I write at the end here? I wrote, overall, this is definitely a system made by theater kids. Oh, also, they sent me all the cards. In case you don't know, DAGGERHEART has cards, which I will get into more detail later, but they are beautiful, and oh man, it's awesome. I can't wait. Okay, let's get started. So I definitely have an idea of what DAGGERHEART is, but I was like, I could read the whole book. I should read the whole book in preparation for this video so I can make a well-informed answer, which is what a lot of people told me when I made the DM's guide video, which was just like, how dare Jacob not read every word? And I was like, I tried, I did most of it, but I read for like 2 hours and my brain got tired. And I was like, I think I've read enough. I think I can talk about this. Otherwise the video will be far too long, and I'm not going to subject Skylar to that, or you, but stay tuned for more DAGGERHEART content. We'll definitely make stuff about it. So in case you jumped on this video and you're just like, I literally know nothing about DAGGERHEART. What is it? Critical Role, you know those guys. They have a publication company called Darrington Press, and they have made a TTRPG system. And it's actually really cool because there's an entire section at the very beginning of the book that lists all of their inspirations. They have touchstones on TTRPGs here, things like 13th Age, Apocalypse Keys, Apocalypse World, Blades in the Dark City of Mist, Cortex Prime, Cypher System, Dishonored, Dungeons and Dragons, you know, lots of things. And they kind of list the different things that they were inspired by from those systems. I love that. That's so cool. I do think it's funny, under films and television, they do put The Legend of Vox Machina, and that's just them being the Obama putting the medal on themselves. I know a different group of people who wrote this also made the show. I understand that. They're a big company now. I get it. I'm just making a little meme. You know me, Jacob the Memer. XP to level 3 is first and foremost. They also spend a good portion of these first couple of pages explaining what a TTRPG is. And that's great, because this could be somebody's first thing. You don't know who's playing it. Somebody might just pick this up and be like, what is this? This might be their introduction into TTRPGs. And I think they do a really good job explaining it. Overall, though, there is a large sense of narrative, story, and fiction in DAGGERHEART. Upon first read and glance, this is not a system that wants to have a bunch of crunchy rules and a really complicated combat system or a billion skills that you're going to add proficiency to. You're not crunching numbers. You're not doing too much math. You are mostly narrating scenes. I've played a bit of City of Mist, and I've also played a one-shot of 13th Age run by a friend of mine. It feels similar to those systems from what I've read, though it's taking a lot of of the baseline of like D&D and Pathfinder and turning it into this sort of amorphous narrative system that you witness when you watch a live show like Critical Role, where there's a lot of intense action and cool scenes that they set up. Like I said earlier on, it feels like a system made by theater kids. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's what a lot of people want to do when they're playing TTRPGs, is they want to live out their fantasy. They are balancing a very thin line of like having a general fantasy that they want to have over letting the player do whatever they want. So they don't want to tiptoe into either side too well, and they're trying to ride the balance to make sure that it has rules and it has a basis for how those rules work, and it's not too overbearing or too vague to not make any sense out of it. So that's kind of what I gather from the get-go about how it is designed. There's a little blurb in here that really coalesces what this system is, and it made me laugh when I read it, which was, as a narrative-focused game, DAGGERHEART is not a place where technical, out-of-context interpretations of the rules are encouraged. Everything should flow back to the fiction, and the GM has the authority and responsibility to make rulings about how rules are applied to underscore that fiction. And it's just funny getting to that point after they've kind of explained what DAGGERHEART is and how it's a little bit more narrative focused. And they're like, look, we made the game a certain way. You're not really supposed to break it. There's got to be some mutual trust at the table in order for this to work. I've kind of run into a lot of systems not having that philosophy and me being like, well, we need to facilitate the table, so we've got to make the rules very crunchy in order to make that happen, because nobody at the table is going to trust each other. Meanwhile, Giga Chad DAGGERHEART is like, as a DM, you should empathize with your players. You should buy into their characters. That's like one of the first things it tells you to do. Hey, as a GM, be a fan of your characters and their journeys. That's really good advice for any game, really. But in DAGGERHEART, it's a staple. It's like the point of the game. Then they get a little bit into the world building, because DAGGERHEART does have its own like world that it takes place in. It's not Tal'Dorei or anything. It's a new world that they have created, but the world is very simplified. There are major concepts that have to do with the gods and basically like the upper planes, which are called the hollows above, and like the lower planes, which are the circles below. Demons come from there, gods come from up there, but there were ones that were forgotten and banished, and they became like the banished gods, kind of like Tal'Dorei a little bit. And from what I read, they don't go into too much detail about it because they do want to encourage you to kind of do your own thing. I think it's a really great idea with how DAGGERHEART presents its world to the GMs and also to its characters and character building to its players. It is trying to get you to write something. It wants you to be a creative writer. I think that's a good thing and could be a bad thing for some people. I have run into some players who don't really want to do a bunch of creative writing homework for their D&D character. And then I have some players who write enormous backstories. So you really kind of differentiate there, but they do a really good job at being able to provide for both. So if there's ever a point where DAGGERHEART's like, I don't know, you come up with it, they also go, all right, here's some examples, which is really nice. There's a really big sense of like flavor in this system too. They have a whole section talking about flavoring your game And if you want something to look differently, but it still functions and rules the same way, they almost encourage you to do that. And that's cool for a system to just like encourage that. It's really facilitating like a more storytelling approach to a TTRPG. But we still have classes. So that's what I'm saying, that like this system kind of like rides a line. It still wants to have rules that fall under categories, and like there's a little bit of that TTRPG crunch, but it also really wants to be like this open-ended narrative style of play game. I don't know how it plays, but that's how I'm reading it. So I'm constantly going back and forth while I'm reading it. Like, okay, this is like a rule ability where you have 2d12s and one of them's fear and the other one is hope, and you add them together and then your abilities can add more numbers to them, and then you add the dice together. That creates the result of your roll that allows you to do something in the game. And then you get parts where it's like, you could just decide that this is this thing instead. And it's like, oh, okay. Class-wise, we've got Bard, Druid, Guardian, Ranger, Rogue, Seraph, Sorcerer, Warlock, Warrior, and Wizard. There is no Warlock. You, in fact, do not have the perfect Warlock, your weapons and supplies. The DAGGERHEART said, no. You don't have that. And then every class has like 2 subclasses. They've kind of split up like fighter and paladin and cleric into like their own sort of subcategories, which are guardian, seraph, and warrior. And you kind of get the flavor of each of those classes within the subclasses. Like under bard, under play the troubadour if you want to play music to bolster your allies. They also have a section about simplified languages. So if in DAGGERHEART, you're not asked to pick specific languages for your character. Everybody basically speaks common, as it would be. And if you want to have languages in your game, then you can have them in there. That's kind of the design philosophy a lot with DAGGERHEART, is there's a lot of like, well, if you want that in your game, then you can have it, but I didn't think it was that important. Honestly, I think language is one of the most annoying things in TTRPGs to begin with. Especially in D&D, you start up and you're like, am I gonna need Goblin? Is this important? You've also got the main ability scores, which is agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, and knowledge. Agility and finesse being dexterity split into 2 skills, which I think is pretty smart. Agility is like sprinting, leaping, and maneuvering, while finesse is control, hiding, and tinkering. And then you kind of do like a Pathfinder thing where you get like +2, +1, +1, 0, 0, -1 for your stats, which is super simple, really easy. You could throw a DAGGERHEART character together pretty fast. And I think the most difficult parts of a DAGGERHEART character would not be calculating all of the stats, but writing most of your character's story, which we'll get into a second. But before that, I want to talk about evasion. Effectively, you have an evasion stat, and that's how hard it is to hit you. And they do a cool thing where it says, evasion manifests within the narrative. A wizard might avoid blows with shimmering arcane shields or bat away an adversary's spells, while a ranger nimbly dodges out of the way of attacks, and a warrior parries, blocks, and dodges. And initially, when I read that, I was like, okay, so there's not going to be a lot of like equipment really here. This is very, very narrative in the sense that it is like your evasion stat is going to matter, but you can kind of describe it however you want, which is interesting. And I got way into my head about it because there's an armor section where armor creates a damage threshold. And if you take more damage than the threshold, then you take damage to your hit points. And that's how you take damage. So I was like, okay. Equipment still matters. That's interesting. That's cool. So again, it's kind of writing that line. It's like there's equipment and there's armor and there's stats still, but you can kind of describe it however you want, which, to be fair, is how a lot of people play D&D anyways. If you're on your 3rd or 4th D&D campaign, I guarantee you most people are not using what the base book is giving them. They're reflavoring most of it. It's just kind of what everybody's doing already in later stage D&D campaigns, and it's cool to have like rules behind it. It's also funny to see choose other starting items, and like the first thing they list is torch, and next is 50 feet of rope. It's like, this is our wondrous narratively driven game, but we cannot escape needing a torch and 50 feet of rope. I want to talk about a section of this book. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if I was going manic, but I was reading the next section, which is called Create Your Experiences. And I kept laughing while I was reading it, and I don't know why. I didn't know what was funny. I read the words, in DAGGERHEART, your character's experience are one of the core ways you express their backstory and expertise through mechanics. And I think Maybe there was a part of me that was imagining this to be like a part of their backstory, and it's called experiencing. So I was imagining like a character with a tragic backstory, like, oh, what's your experiences? Oh, I experienced horrible trauma. I experienced pain and agony. That's going to be my experience. And then I kind of found out that that is what it is. Effectively, I don't know if anybody's ever played 13th Age, but it's very similar to this, or your abilities that you get in City of Mist. Basically, instead of having a bunch of skills, DAGGERHEART has experiences, and experiences let you kind of write almost anything into your character's flavor and story and onto their character sheet, and you can utilize that to increase your rolls, basically. It's like having a skill. So the idea is that if you took pilot, then anytime, anywhere that would be relevant to you being a pilot, you can use that ability to increase your roll. I believe Lancer also has an ability like this, which is neat. It's cool. It's a really good way to get around having a million skills in a game and letting somebody play out the narrative of their character. And I also love a player being able to change one and being like, I don't think I am this anymore. I'm going to have a new one instead. And you can evolve your character. And there's like a mechanical reason for that to be there. I love that. I think I was laughing because some of them are cringe. And maybe that's just me. I genuinely think it's me. I think this is a really great system. Sometimes more than one of your character's experiences is a good fit for the situation. For example, if your character is trying to sneak past a guard in the dark, your I live in the shadows and stealthy experiences would both apply. And that made me laugh. And I think it's making me laugh because I would cringe at myself a little bit if I did that in the game. And they gave some examples. You've got backgrounds like assassin, field medic, scholar, soldier, which is good. I think that makes sense. That's something maybe I would want to do if I made a character. But then we get into some more broader categories here, which again, I just want to say I do like it. I think it's awesome. I don't know what my deal is. Maybe I need to play it, but like characteristics, friend to all, leader, lone wolf, young and naive. Maybe I could just imagine like horrific ones, just like loves to bone, drug dealer. I'm going to use my Heisenberg skill. There's a section that has phrases, so you can instead name your experience, catch me if you can, fake it till you make it. First time's the charm. Hold the line. I won't let you down. I don't know. GM, I'm gonna use my hope to add my experience to this role, which is gonna be down to clown. And then I'm also gonna add young, dumb, full of comedy channels. I think I'm thinking about this comedy first. You could make a comedy game with everybody having experiences that are just silly. GM, I'm gonna use my experience. Unending pain and agony. DAGGERHEART has this domain system that all the classes fall under that sort of mimics like colors in Magic the Gathering or types in Pokemon, and they fall under a wheel, and each two represents a class. That's really cool. So like one of them is like Grace and Shadow. That is a rogue, and that's really fun. Or Codex and Arcana is a wizard. That's awesome. And then based on your domain is the cards that you get for those abilities. So for example, these ones are purple and they're the Arcana ones. So these are your abilities that you'll be able to use in the game. This is the blade one. So you'll have blades and stuff if you're like one of the fighter classes. But that's how they define all of like the abilities. They're kind of neatly formed into this system, which I think is genius. I just wish I could combine the other ones. I wish I could make my own class by taking like Bone and Night and Midnight. I think it's what it's called. Midnight and Bone. And I could make a class out of that or something. That would be super fun. Maybe there's rules for it and I just missed it. So yell at me in the comments if that's true. I also think it would be fun if they added one more domain, because then there would be rival colors like in Magic the Gathering. There would be like opposites on the other side, and there kind of are in the game already. Like a bard is like the opposite of like a ranger and a druid, I think, which is kind of interesting. Also, genius idea to do these with the cards. They also did a very like card collector kind of thing where they have the artist on the bottom and they have like the number and the set that it's from, because that means that they could make packs in the future that have either different art on them or are like special edition versions, or people could customize them and make their own, which I I can see happening too. And you could have all of your character cards with your character art on them. Like, I don't know. That's a really smart idea to do this card thing. They're really combining a lot of games that they already like and putting it into one thing. And that's a lot of fun. I think that's really cool. I'm going to just run through some of my notes while I was reading. Background questions are a great idea. Yeah, when you're writing your background, you basically get questions, and then the other players get to ask you those questions, and you get to form opinions about each other in like session 0. That's a really cool idea to start like the party story. The art in the ancestries is beautiful. Oh my God. They did like this concept art thing with it, where you're seeing like all the different types and variations in like a concepting kind of way as you concept your own character. And that is just so genius. That is so cool. It gives a lot of ideas. Oh God, it's so good. You can also do a mixed ancestry in the back. So if you want to be between like a human and a ribbit, which are the frog guys, then you can. And that's awesome. I love that there's rules for that. So the game falls under 2 like main categories, which is like hope and fear. And that's what determines your dice rolls. I won't go into too much of the explanation of it because I also don't fully understand it, but I was reading some examples of it and I love how fear works, because if your roll ends up being mostly fear, it's not a failure. You don't just fail to do the thing you were trying to do. Like if you're trying to jump off a building or if you're trying to attack somebody, instead you incur a penalty, which is great. That means there's a lot more failing forward in Daggerheart and you're not just like wasting your turns constantly. And I love that. I think they quantified range in a really good way where it's just descriptors. So it's like close, very close, far away. But they do have optional rules for using like a grid if you want to use it. No, you could theoretically use hexes with Daggerheart, which is sick. That's very cool. You could also use nothing. You could use measurements. That's also awesome. It's genius. It's just, that's what I was saying. The system is so smart because however you want to play it, you are allowed to play it that way. And I think that that's the real heart of this system, is that however you want to play your game, it's going to allow you to do that. There's basic magic items, which are really cool. So you can have items that like do magic damage, but they're not like super powerful items that you have to like keep track of. There's a really simple system for like the monsters, or as they call them, adversaries, where you can use points, battle points, to make them harder or more difficult, and the stat blocks are super simple. Oh my God, I love it so much. I think an issue with Dungeons & Dragons is that it can be a hard thing to DM. A DM has to do a lot to prepare for running a game, and I think Daggerheart has made a significant effort to not make the game hard for a DM to run. They do very little, and I love that. They're allowed to be creative and just run the game, and I think that's awesome. They also show how to make a campaign in the back. I skimmed through it. I didn't really look at it too much, but this book goes into so much detail. It is everything you need to play Daggerheart, which I didn't expect. And I think that is awesome. It's such a win. I'm super excited to see more people play it. I'm really excited to play it. But yeah, overall, the system is definitely a system made by theater kids. That is my final note on it. And I think that's most of us. I think that's what most of us are achieving for, is to have cool story, cool character, cool game. And Daggerheart lets you do kind of whatever you want. You want to be silly, you want to be dark and gritty, you want to be a little bit lighter tone, then you can do that. Hell yeah. Thank God. Thank God this exists. I'm so happy. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about Daggerheart. It would be cool if I went to the comments and saw what a lot of people liked, instead of everybody correcting me on things I probably got wrong. That would be so sick. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Thanks, Skylar, for editing this, and I will see you guys on the next one, which might be about Pathfinder. We'll see.